Hello and welcome to ETG's Live From. Today we have Ruth from Secret Paradise live from the Maldives. Really excited to have Ruth with us because she co-founded a company in the Maldives which really takes a completely different view of a place, puts a totally different spin on it and allows people to see something that they really wouldn't do otherwise. It's very close to what we believe in at ETG about travel. I'm Sam. I'm the co-founder of Experience Travel Group. I'm also joined by Melissa, our product director. Melissa, what is it that we offer at ETG, first of all, in the Maldives?
Well, first of all, when you look online for a holiday in the Maldives, the pictures are obviously amazing, but it's sometimes hard to decipher the pros and cons of each resort. What we're really good at is understanding what our clients are looking for and matching that with the right resort. Secondly, we carefully edit what's out there. We only work with select resorts that fit our ethics and that we think are best for our clients. For example, we recently completed a sustainability audit and we actually removed 2 resorts that we just didn't think really made the grade. And thirdly, working with Ruth, we're one of the only UK tour operators to offer an experience of local life that we think most other tourists don't really get to see or even know about.
Brilliant, thanks. Well, without further ado, let me go over to Ruth, who can introduce Secret Paradise and herself. So, Ruth, please introduce yourself.
Hi Sam, thank you for the invitation to join you. It's great to catch up with you guys. As most people can probably hear from my accent, I do originate from the UK, and I had 27 years in a UK retail background before moving to the Maldives to co-found Secret Paradise, which is an award-winning, sustainable and educational tour company.
Brilliant. And where are you right now, Ruth?
So I'm currently in the office, which is in Mali, which is one of the islands that form part of the capital area of Greater Mali. So literally just a stone's throw from the airport, but also a stone's throw from the beach.
Brilliant. Okay. And how's it feel in the Maldives right now, where you are?
If I'm honest, it feels pretty normal, with the exception of wearing masks here in the capital area. Life has gone back to a pre-pandemic perspective. I've been fortunate in the last few weeks to get out to a couple of local islands, and in all honesty, the pandemic seems very, very far away when you're out there.
And Bruce, what actually brought you to the Maldives in the first place? I know you sort of touched on what you do, but what sort of prompted you to actually go there in the first place?
A diving holiday that was organised by a friend. I had returned from a 6-month sabbatical that I'd been fortunate to take, and I'd learnt to dive, and I was asked did I want to go to the Maldives with a group of girls for a diving holiday. So I was like, okay, yes, once in a lifetime experience. And then that led me to returning to the Maldives 3 times a year sometimes in order to dive. And then I came out to do my dive master, where I was here for 3 months in 2011. And subsequently I was in the right place at the right time and was introduced to the guy who's now my business partner, and we founded Secret Paradise.
Amazing. It's funny how these things sort of start, isn't it? I was going to ask what makes the Maldives special to you. I mean, obviously the diving's a key part of that, but beyond that, what is so special about the Maldives?
For most people who know me now, I dive far less than I used to when I came as a tourist. But for me, the Maldives has always been about the people. I was lucky over the times that I was visiting. I had a circle of local friends. They would invite me to have meals with their family, break fast during Ramadan. And so for me, it's always been about their hospitality and their friendliness. And I guess that's also part of the reason that when we founded Secret Paradise, it was about looking at opportunities where we could engage locals with tourists in the way that I'd had that opportunity myself.
Brilliant, Ruth. Well, before we get back to that, so hold that thought, because I think that's the really exciting stuff that we want to talk about here. But I know people are keen to know about the pandemic and the current situation. So if I could just go ask a couple of questions about that first of all. But how has the Maldives dealt with the pandemic generally?
I think we can probably say it has been dealt with very successfully. If you look at numbers in the sense of this month, we've reached over 900,000 arrivals for 2021. We've got very low rates of positive cases now, both within the Greater Mali area and throughout the Maldives. But I think for the Maldives, it was about the fact that it was the first destination to reopen to tourists. And the world and his wife was watching and ensuring what went on, what happened, what didn't happen, what did we do right, what did we do wrong. So I think that the Maldives had to navigate an area that nobody else had navigated previously. And so, yes, there were some mistakes to be made, some changes to happen, but I believe that what the Maldives has done successfully is that it hasn't stopped looking at ways to make those changes or reviewing the process to ensure that it's right, and it's continually evolving and updating. I think also the fact that credit has to be given to the Visit Maldives team, who have continually promoted and marketed the Maldives, and that hasn't stopped from the moment that borders closed back in 2020 to when they reopened to the point now. So we've kept them all, or they have kept the Maldives at the forefront of people's minds, and also as an inspiration, I guess, for those dark periods of time during lockdown that we've all experienced.
And is there anything that travellers should bear in mind if they're going to come, rules and regulations and so on?
There are three key things. So the first of those is the PCR test, which needs to be taken prior to your departure within 96 hours of leaving your home destination. The second of those is completing the Imuga online health declaration, to which you'll upload the PCR for certificate and photograph and any vaccination details, but also that you don't need to be fully vaccinated to travel to the Maldives to stay on resorts. But if you're staying on a local island, then there's a little bit more of an understanding of whether you're vaccinated or not that's required to be aware of.
And how easy is it? I know most people come to the Maldives and they just stay on one island resort, but obviously some people do move, and of course when we're sort of arranging things with you, they tend to move from one island to another. So what test do you have to have? Any tests to move from island to island? And if you do, how is that done?
So moving from island to island is known within the travel business here as a split stay. So whilst it is possible from a logistics point of view, you're quite right, there are some things to consider. And the first of those is that a split stay form needs to be completed, and that lies the responsibility with the accommodation provider where you're staying and also the accommodation provider where you're moving to. They complete it on your behalf, and that is submitted to the Ministry of Tourism. On the day of your transfer, you would then complete an exit health declaration, which the accommodation provider where you're staying will assist you with, and then they too will submit that to the Ministry of Tourism, and that's kept on file. You wouldn't need to take a PCR test in terms of a general requirement. However, a number of resorts will request guests who are coming from local islands or from vessels to take a PCR test prior to their arrival to the resort. And in fact, there are some resorts currently that will not accept split stays because they're looking to minimise the risk for their guests that are staying on that property. The other time that you would need to take a PCR is if you're staying on a local island, and you need to take a PCR test 72 hours before you depart from the Maldives.
Okay, great. That's really good to know. So sort of throwing it out a bit of a wider question, obviously it's great that people are starting to travel again. How important is tourism to the Maldives?
Tourism is hugely important. It accounted for over 60% of contribution to the GDP in 2019. And if you think from a tourism point of view, automatically you think of the guys that perhaps employed at the resort, but also it's more extensive than that. It's everybody that's involved with local island tourism. So not just the guest houses, but all the different businesses that link into that. So that could be souvenir shops, local cafes and convenience stores that benefit from tourism, laundry services. You've got your transfer services and people that work at the airport, even the fishermen that supply resorts and local islands with fresh produce, and obviously people like you and I, the travel agents and the booking and reservation teams. So, tourism has a very extensive role within the Maldives, and hence why it was important to ensure that tourism restarted as quickly as it was safely possible to do so, but also to ensure that it was reopening safely to protect both the tourists, the employees within the tourism industry and the local communities.
Ruth, I'm someone I've been stuck at home for the last 18 months, keen to get travelling. Why is the Maldives the ideal place to visit right now?
I think there's two aspects to that. I think firstly, from a safety point of view, the natural archipelago and string of islands do make it a very safe destination in the sense of their individual islands that can be dealt with as isolated cases. So there's a lot of controls that are in place in terms of people who are coming and going from the island that mean that the situation can be monitored. And also, I guess, in terms of the number of people on an island, whether that's a resort island or whether that's a local island, you're not going to be in your millions and millions that you would be perhaps if you were visiting a city destination. I think the second aspect is the fact that, like you say, everybody has been at home, they've been in lockdown in various countries for different periods of time, and that's the dream perhaps in terms of returning to an island paradise destination where it's warm and sunny, that you can slip onto the beach, into the water, or you can just be very far away from what has been the reality for everybody over the last 18 months.
And apart from those kind of wonderful Robinson Crusoe-esque things that we all associate with the Maldives, what would you suggest doing in the Maldives? What else can you get from the Maldives?
For me, it's about getting out and exploring, and whilst that might not be practical or might not be what people want to do at this moment in time, perhaps in the future on visits, it's about looking at islands that are off the beaten track and learning about the environment and the biodiversity that so many islands offer. Obviously, water makes up a huge part of the Maldives, so you need to have the opportunity to snorkel or to dive if that's something that you're into. And certainly, I think the other aspect for me would be enjoying sunsets, but also taking the opportunity to get up early, at least on one day of your holiday, and taking the sunrises, which are just as beautiful.
Yeah, and the thing that struck me when I was in the Maldives first time, it's a completely unique culture. There's nowhere else on earth like it, made up of such a series of small islands, each sort of microcosms. But is there a way that you can experience the real Maldives, as it were?
By staying on local islands, staying in guest houses and hotels that are operated by locals within the community on local islands throughout the Maldives, from the north right down to the south, travelling with a local guide, such as the experience that we offer through yourself, and engaging with local communities by perhaps participating in projects or community initiatives.
And Ruth, I've heard, can you drink alcohol on the local islands? I've heard that you can't sometimes. That's something that people be keen to know.
As an Islamic country, alcohol isn't available on local islands. There are a small number of islands, and I mean less than 5, where there is access to a bar boat. But I think if you're travelling locally and you're looking to experience the real Maldives, then for most people, that period of being dry or taking it as a detox actually works out more beneficial than they anticipated. Certainly we've had guests that have joined us at the beginning of the trip where they're sort of penciling in the opportunity when they're going to be able to get their next beer, and then when the actual opportunity arises they're like, no, it's okay, we'll stay, we're just going to have a coffee on the beach, can't be bothered to go to the bar boat.
Yeah, and of course it's more respectful, I guess, as well, and obviously you can combine the stay with a resort island as well if you know you want a bit of both sides of it, I guess. So why do you think people are increasingly looking for these kind of local experiences?
I guess post the pandemic particularly, when we've had an opportunity to slow down, we've seen what happens to the environment when we're actually not out there moving within it. I think that's perhaps given people the chance to look and reconsider how they can travel and how they perhaps can reconnect with people and also with the environment. I think the media over the course of the pandemic, on the back of what has been seen, has started to talk about sustainable and responsible travel more so. And perhaps going back to what Sam was saying about where, you know, you've been at home, you haven't been out with individuals, that it's looking for a way of reconnecting, and whether that's reconnecting with people or reconnecting with the environment. It's driving people to look at other holiday or travel opportunities, perhaps than they would have done so previously.
Okay, and I was going to ask, what's your favourite experience in the Maldives? But I guess I mean that in the sense of, you know, what's your favourite local experience in the Maldives? So when you go to these local islands, you know, what would be a really great thing to do?
For me, it is about the food. So I enjoy taking afternoon tea, which is known as hedika. So very traditional. You go into a local cafe on any island in the Maldives, and from 3 till around about 6 p.m. there'll be these tasty snacks that are comprised of tuna, vegetables, chili, coconut. They're not great for the waistline, I must admit, so you do have to not indulge too often. Or sharing a meal with a local family. I'm very fortunate in that here in the capital I have 2 local families who supply me with local food, and in return they get scones and apple crumble.
Oh, lovely. Fantastic. Sounds great.
What is, I mean, most people miss local food in the Maldives because they end up with kind of international food in resorts. What is local food in the Maldives?
So generally the basic diet will consist of fish, so tuna fish and reef fish. Dried tuna is used in pretty much most dishes, so even if it's a potato curry, for example, there'll be dried fish added to it. Coconut, chili, and then rice or a flat bread known as roshi. So those would be the key staples. You can go into a local home and pretty much guarantee that on the stove there'll be the equivalent of what I would say is a fish broth, which is called garudia, and that is then served with white rice and various accompaniments. And also that there'll be a storage pot which will have the flatbread, the roshi, in there as well. So as I say, very often you'll go into a local home and you'll find on the stove those 3 items.
Well, fascinating. And I guess the influence comes from India, from Sri Lanka, from all over the Indian Ocean, really, because sailors stopped there, didn't they, for years on following the trade routes.
Yeah, and definitely throughout the Maldives, and not just from the food point of view, there are different aspects of influence, as you say, because it was on the trading route. So you've got influences not just from Asia, but also from Europe in terms of the Portuguese. from Morocco. So yes, it's also sort of a bit of a mix. And also when you go to different areas of the Maldives, so travelling to the far north is very different to travelling to the far south, and they've got their own dialects to a certain degree. They've also got different food base as well. So like very many destinations, it's not just about being destination specific, it is geographically specific within the whole area of the Maldives.
Yeah, and it just opens a whole world, really, doesn't it? That you wouldn't otherwise see just from one resort, even though that one resort is wonderful in itself, I guess.
I'm quite happy to go and spend a few days at a resort, and I think that local tourism has allowed people perhaps to stretch their budget, allow them to experience the Maldives in different ways. So it's not just about necessarily having a complete local stay, although that works for some people. For others, particularly those that are flying long haul, it's about experiencing the best of the both worlds, because for many people it's a one-time visit destination.
Yeah, and I think that's what we've discovered from working with you, is that you can have the best of both worlds. You can have an amazing luxury, Robinson Crusoe resort, and then you can explore as well and do some local islands and visit and just see what makes the Maldives really special. So listen, Ruth, it's been really fantastic talking to you. Thank you. But before I let you go, can you tell us what your wish is for 2022?
I guess I need to say on a personal level, it would be to get back to the UK to see family and friends. So I saw my family last in 2019. So I know I'm not alone with that. So that's definitely a wish. And then from a business point of view, for me, it's about from a tourism level here, there's a lot of projects going on with regard to sustainability and responsible travel, and also looking at ways that we can increase local engagement with tourism. So I'm excited for those to come out in a very positive manner.
Brilliant. Okay, well, let's hope for that, and look forward to welcoming you back to the UK as well sometime, and hopefully I imagine Melissa and I would love to get out there sometime, and other people from ETG and our clients as well. So let's hope we can have lots of that in 2022. All right.
Yeah, let's hope so indeed. It's been great to chat with you guys. Thanks for your time.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot. Bye, Ruth.